The Basilica of Constantine. Look at these immense arches. They used to blow me away. Then I learned they were only side niches. Look high above at those nubs, and then imagine the main arches stretching high above entirely across this big vacant lot. Now, complete the mammoth Hall of Justice in your mind. Those 3 arches were matched by 3 more on the other side, where only ruined pillars remain today. The hall itself was as long as a football field. It was lavishly finished with colorful inlaid marble, a gilded bronze ceiling, and statues, and it was filled with strolling Romans. As this was the Basilica of Constantine, at the far end there was an enormous marble statue of Emperor Constantine on a throne. His finger was as big as me. Pieces of this statue are on display in the courtyard of Rome's Capitoline Museum. A basilica was a covered meeting place, often serving as a Roman hall of justice. In a society that was as legal-minded as America is today, you needed a lot of lawyers, and a big place to put them. Citizens came here to get building permits, settle inheritances, or sue somebody. Notice the layout, a long central hall flanked by 2 side aisles. This spacious floor plan was later adopted by medieval Christians who required a larger meeting hall for their worship services than Roman temples provided. The Roman basilica became the model for virtually all Christian churches, from Italy to France to England, and from Romanesque to Gothic to Renaissance. All have the same basic floor plan as a Roman basilica. This basilica was begun by Emperor Maxentius, but after he was trounced in battle, the victor, Constantine, completed this massive building. No doubt about it, the Romans built monuments on a more epic scale than any previous Europeans, wowing their barbarian neighbors.
Now stroll deeper into the Forum, downhill along the Via Sacra, through the trees. We're headed for the heart of the Forum. It'll take 3 or 4 minutes to get there. So as you walk, let Rick point out a few things on the way.
Think of all the history around you. You may pass modern workers in roped-off archaeological zones digging down through the millennia. The Via Sacra was paved with large basalt stones. Think of it. Many of the very stones under your feet were actually walked on by Caesar Augustus 2,000 years ago. Sturdy roads like Via Sacra were part of an efficient transportation network, about 50,000 miles of paved roads in all. Originally, roads like these were covered over with concrete and smooth-fitting stones. Roman businessmen traveled them on foot or in carts. The mail sped along in a kind of pony express system, and bureaucrats rode in chariots, allowing them to administer far-off lands. Up on your right, that green door you pass by is the original bronze door to the Temple of Romulus, still swinging on its ancient hinges after 17 centuries. No wonder they call Rome the Eternal City.
Continue down the Via Sacra between the ruined buildings until the road opens up to a flat, grassy area. That's where we'll begin the next track.
The Forum's main square. The word forum referred to this entire valley and its main square. The main square was this flat patch of land about the size of a football field stretching to the base of Capitol Hill. It was the original piazza, an open area accommodating the gregarious and social nature of ancient Romans. Surrounding the square were temples, law courts, government buildings, and triumphal arches. Rome was born right here. According to legend, twin brothers Romulus and Remus were orphaned in infancy and raised by a she-wolf on top of the Palatine. Growing up, they found it hard to get dates. So, they and their cohorts attacked the nearby Sabine tribe and kidnapped their women. Or so went the legend. Closer to fact, this marshy valley became the meeting place and then the trading center for the scattered tribes on the surrounding hillsides. Throughout Rome's long history, the square was the busiest, most crowded, and often seediest section of town. Besides senators, politicians, and money changers, there were even sleazier types. Souvenir hawkers, pickpockets, fortune tellers, gamblers, slave traders, drunks, hookers, lawyers, and tour guides. The Forum is now rubble, but imagine it in its prime. Gleaming white marble buildings with 40-foot-high columns and shiny bronze roofs, rows of statues painted in realistic colors, processional chariots rattling down the Via Sacra. Mentally replace tourists in T-shirts with tribunes in togas. Imagine the buildings towering and the people buzzing around you while an orator gives a rabble-rousing speech from the foot of Capitol Hill. If things still look just like a pile of rocks, at least tell yourself, but Julius Caesar once leaned against these same rocks.
And speaking of Julius Caesar, let's see his temple. At the near end of the main square, the end closest to the Colosseum, find the foundations of a temple now sheltered by a modern tin roof.
The Temple of Julius Caesar. Julius Caesar's body was burned on this spot under the metal roof after his assassination in 44 BC. Caesar, born in the year 100 BC, changed Rome and the Forum dramatically. Popular with the people because of his military victories and charisma, he gained control of the government, suspended the Roman constitution, and ruled like a king or dictator. In the Forum, he cleared out many of the wooden market stalls and replaced them with grand marble buildings. Caesar's house was located behind the temple, near that clump of trees. In fact, Caesar walked right by here on the day he was assassinated, the place where the street corner preacher called out to him, "Beware the Ides of March." Though he was popular with the masses, not everyone liked Caesar's politics. During a Senate meeting, he was ambushed by a conspiracy of senators, including his adopted son Brutus. One by one, they stepped up to take turns stabbing him. Caesar died gasping his final astonished words to Brutus, "Et tu, Brute?" He died. The funeral was held here, facing the main square. The citizens gathered and speeches were made. Mark Antony stood up to say, in Shakespeare's words, "Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears. I come to bury Caesar, not to praise him." When Caesar's body was burned, the citizens who still loved him threw anything at hand on the fire. The fire grew huge, so huge it actually required the fire department to come and put it out. Later, Emperor Augustus dedicated this temple in his name, making Caesar the first Roman to become a god. Peek in behind the wall under the tin roof. In the small curved area, there's a mound of dirt that usually has fresh flowers, given to remember the man who, more than any other, personified the greatness of Rome.
Facing the temple of Julius Caesar, look behind it and to the left to see the 10 tall columns that form the entrance to a former temple. You may want to stroll behind the temple of Caesar to find a better viewing spot.